So working on it on the YouTube side. We should be live on Rumble. It looked like we're live on Rumble anyway.
All right, let me open up chat everywhere.
Yep, that's what I was about to do. Because I've got the one open, but I don't
So
have the
now
other. Pop out chat. There we go. All right. Looks like Karma Queries is showing up on YouTube. Thank you very much for popping in. Sorry we're a little late getting started here. I'm just kind of...
Hey, did you say on YouTube?
Huh? What was that, Mike?
Interesting. You said on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Television Gamers here as well.
So, oh, you know who Karma Aquarius is?
Not off the top of my head.
Oh, it's Mario.
Oh, Mario. Okay. I don't know why he's on YouTube then. Normally he shows up on Rumble. Weird.
Yeah, I think I know why, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about that later. Okay.
Yeah, all good.
Because I'm not gonna dig into stuff like that tonight.
Nope.
Hey, Intellivision, how you doing, man? Good to see you. All right. So we're live on both platforms. That was actually the most painless I think I've ever done that. Maybe I'm starting to get reused to doing all this crap again. Okay. All right, we're live. We're gonna do it. Okay. So before we get too involved, we are going to talk about what we did this weekend. And my weekend was mostly like Indiana Jones and getting things set up for another side project thing that I'm going to be kicking off. Primarily on Rumble, though I did reserve names for it on YouTube and Twitch. Well, not so much Twitch. I just changed my name there. So anybody that's following me on there and went, who the hell's this other guy? That's probably me. So I was busy setting up like emojis and thumbnail templates and icons and kind of working on videos and doing a lot of Indiana Jones, trying to push through this one section that I absolutely hate in the game, so I can move on with the fun part of the game. What all did you get into, Mike?
Let's see. Did I do this weekend? I did have a band rehearsal on. Oh, so yeah, services on Friday, then some COD with the boys. There was had a neat little
There's
karaoke
Peter.
bingo
Hey, Peter.
thing. Hey, Peter. Karaoke bingo thing at the temple on Saturday night. So went out and the family went out and did that. Then I had Sunday school and band rehearsal on Sunday evening, then came home and played Indiana Jones in the Great Circle because I'm also hooked on it, but I don't want to. I want to keep streaming it, so I got to pace myself. And then tonight here.
Yeah, I honestly, there's things I love about that game, and I have a couple of substantial complaints that would probably knock it down a couple of points, in my personal opinion.
Okay.
It's still a great game, but there's just like a couple of things that super duper annoy me. One of which you have not gotten to yet, which doesn't happen until you get to an area called Sudakai. And there's a certain puzzle type that appears there that involves you having to go around and gather a bunch of stuff that's at the sections where you do the puzzles before you can actually solve the puzzles. So I spent tons of time running between area to area to area trying to solve some of these things, only to realize I never had enough of the particular pieces I needed. And then I don't like how they did some of the solutions. And then Gina starts to get super annoying again. And Gina is a chronic pain for me in that game.
Gina is annoying all the way around.
Yeah, she's kind of unpleasant in the game.
Well, she's not necessarily I don't find her unpleasant. I find her to be a pain in my ass.
Yeah. You two take a fly.
I just subbed to your YouTube channel. yeah, that's Mario. That's
Still
the
looking for his
confirmation.
potato.
Yeah, that's Mario.
So yeah, that was pretty much my weekend. Honestly, God, I think I lost an hour doing like one emoji because it wasn't it. The thing is, I found one that I liked online, right? But they're always in various different sizes. They're never quite in the right size, particularly for Rumble, right? So I tried just resizing it and that didn't work. And then I ended up having to take every still out of it in Photoshop, making it to a new image of the exact size that I needed. And then remember how to do a timeline so that I could set everything up appropriately and then export it. And then I had the wrong time delay because it didn't look like it was moving. And then I saw it move, and I'm like, oh god, that's right. I've got a 5 second delay per frame. Yeah, that's not gonna work. So I had to fix that. I'm like, oh god, I forgot how much behind the scenes work I do just for this silly stuff that people rarely use. But I want there for some dumb reason.
I see how it is, Batman. You hang out with Hemp now, and you come to Nick's chat.
Hey, Batman is a regular here. We love Batman over here.
You don't come protect Gotham's NLG anymore, and I'm sad. But he does leave a comment on
every now and then you got to cut your losses and give up on a lost cause, my man.
Trust me, I'm feeling that. He does leave me a comment.
We can start ranting, and it's not going to be productive.
Nah.
And
he does leave me a comment
here,
in
so
every. He does leave me a comment in every stream.
He always comments on all my stuff too. Batman's a great supporter of the channel, and he's a
yes,
good
he
friend
is.
of the channel.
Yes,
I don't make it over to his stuff enough. I somehow I keep missing it somehow, and I don't know how.
Sai!
All right, so since Sai is here, before we get too deep into the current topic of the night, you did have something you wanted to talk about. So
I did.
I'm going to translate this over
I
to the solo thing so you can kind of like get this off your chest.
Okay, so before, can you hear me? Because I know sometimes the microphone, can you all hear me?
I see you lighting up, so they should be able to hear you on this scene.
Okay. Yes, I told Sai and Jon Snow that they literally had to be here. So you guys all know.
Very interesting with the new GPUs they're talking about, but I want full specs. I hate the price of GPUs now. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I want to let Mike talk about his thing, but I want to put a pin in this because I have beef with GPU prices currently.
Well, coming out of CES, maybe next RetroRoots, because we could talk about the differences between what used to be old school PC cards, Monster and all that stuff, and we can talk about how they are now. If you want to make that, we can make that a whole topic.
We might. I do want to get a little something off my chest on it though tonight though, because I'm just already thinking about it.
Oh, it's your show. You do.
So yeah,
get off what you want.
But do the thing.
I can hear Mike. Nick forgot to mute him. Thank you, Mac. Okay.
I can fix that back.
So you guys all know Sai. I am a huge Sega Saturn guy, right? And you've also been in my streams when I have potentially had issues loading a disc. And I have been contemplating for a while now, should I get Terra Station mode? I think it's Terra Station or Terra something. The mode MODE. Should I get a satiator, one of those, where you got to basically take the CD drive either out or you mount a card reader in line in the optical drive line to basically turn it into an optical drive emulator. And then somebody developed this. This, my friends, is the Sega Saturn Saru. It is an optical drive emulator. It is a backup memory card. And it is the 1 meg or 4 meg memory cart all in one. This is incredible. Um, the other thing, and I know there are some purists who are going to watch this who are going to get mad at me. Everybody that knows me knows my gaming collection, and I have some gems in my Saturn collection, my 32X collection, and so on. But let's call this what it is, guys. It's called balls and strikes on game collecting, preservation, and the market. I've come to the point in my life where I want to play Power Slave. Power Slave was an incredible Saturn game. Incredible Saturn game. Made by the same folks that made the Duke Nukem port with GT Interactive, which was mind-blowing for the Sega Saturn. Absolutely mind-blowing. I have no desire to pay $500 to play that game. Period. So the Saru runs basically bins and queues. So basically you ISO your games, you copy them to now. Unfortunately, the only sad part is there is a slot on top of this, and it's hard to see, but there's a slot on top of this for an SD card. The only issue with this particular model is the SD card doesn't stick out a lot, so I have to take a very thin screwdriver and just very gently, and I've been able to perfect this without hurting the cart, just pop it out just enough, and get my finger in there. It basically takes a micro SD card, and I bought a 256 gig SanDisk micro SD card. Was cheap enough. It was like $28. Word of warning: do not buy the Amazon Basics version of this. It didn't work at all. So take this card, load it up with anything I want from the Saturn library. To answer your question, Karma, this goes into the cartridge slot of any Saturn. It is simply an optical drive emulator. It is not a Saturn emulator. It requires an actual Saturn. It is open source, so everybody under the sun makes these. I got this. This came with a Sega made cart with a Sonic logo on it. You can print whatever logo you want. If you are savvy enough to build a circuit board, you could actually make one of these. The firmware is completely open source. So I got this off AliExpress for $80, and it's amazing. On my next Monday Night Retro, I will be showing this off. This is going to be right. I'm sorry, unless you're willing to pay $500 for a game, you have no right to play it. That's how retro works. Sorry. Well, you know what? They can come arrest me because I'm done with that.
Wants to know if that plugs into the Amico or not.
Yes, it does. Actually, it does. Right into the cartridge slot, Karma. But yeah, not only does it work on Japanese consoles, but this is also completely region free. So you do not have to mod your Saturn either in order to run this, because basically what the Saru software does is it emulates the CD booter. The other cool thing is, if I don't want to use it and just go back and play one of my discs, I just pull the cartridge out and I'm back to having a regular old Saturn. However, with this in the cartridge slot, because it's also a memory backup, one of the options in the menu is to load a disc game. So if I wanted to load a disc game, one of the things I am not sure of that work on this, that would work on an emulator, are multi-disc games. So my Mr. Bones, for example, I may need to still play that on disc. I can do that.
It depends on how you can combine the ISOs, because I know Dreamcast you can combine some of those things to where it just kind of loads the next one. I never got very good at that, so I sort of shied away from like multi-disc games, but I know there's a way to do it. I should probably play around with that some more, because there's a couple of those I'd really like to play, Skies of Arcadia, Grandia 2, etc., that are great RPGs on there that are like multi-disc. Code Veronica's too, but I don't really want to touch that one.
So I'm in the midst of downloading just a crap ton of games. all
Yeah.
the stuff in my library, and then some stuff that I don't have or can't find. Like there's games you literally just simply can't find. And
Yeah.
again,
There's a lot
not
of
only
stuff
am
I
I
wish they'd pull off the Saturn and put somewhere else. Like, I would love a Shining Force collection. Because the first
right.
two were on the Genesis, but the third one was Saturn only, and I think it might have only been Japan. So
Well, because
very few
you're
people got to
expecting
play the third one.
Sega to do
I
that.
know, to actually and apply logic to anything they do, and they don't. I know.
So so I
But they're not
I've
a
I
retro company that works with a retro company to make retro consoles.
and look,
Bruh.
I'm not gonna. I'm honestly. I'm not interested in selling my game collection because I want to give it to my kids. I want to give it to Seth. Seth, I think, is the one who would appreciate it the most. Um, I have Burning Rangers for the Saturn, which is it's currently a $600 game. My Mega Man 8 Anniversary Collection is worth $900 right now. I have no interest in gouging someone out of that. So I'm going to hold on to it because I want to have it in my collection, but I'm not going and selling it to somebody for
Well,
that.
and this
And honestly,
again, this kind of works from a preservation standpoint. If you were to only download the ones that you own, there's no real difference between playing it this way as opposed to playing it on the CD, other than the fact that you're doing less wear and tear on your optical drive and you're doing less wear
correct.
and tear on your CD, which is already going to eventually suffer from disk rot at some point anyway because it's a CD, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it does the four
So I
meg.
had
It
a
does the
question to
one.
refresh my memory.
Yes.
Sorrow does have the 4 megabyte RAM card too,
Yes.
right?
It
Okay.
does. It emulates the 1 meg and 4 meg. So the games that take that, like Marvel versus Capcom, stuff like that. The fighting games are really big on the Saturn.
Yeah.
So those work.
Okay. All right. So we should probably move directly into the main topic of the night, which we're going to talk about. Basically, this is kind of either we've done like odd controllers, and these are kind of more go-to controllers or controllers we just really like. Some of which we use on a fairly regular basis, and some of the ones that we just kind of like having in our collection or look for ways to use, right? Or weird ones that we have in our collection that we just happen to have a soft spot for. So that's kind of where this topic goes tonight, and in part, which ones you and for you guys to play along, like which ones do you like to use for certain games? Because like fighting games, I like a certain type of controller. Shooters is nice to have like an actual arcade stick sometimes. Platformers, I tend to like an NES D-pad style, that kind of stuff, for example, right? So, what kind of controllers are you guys kind of into, and for what games, right? So that's kind of what the idea of this topic was tonight, because it kind of leans into retro, and we all got like it. I don't know any game collector that doesn't have a multitude of controllers. And fighting game players are even more rotten about it because we'll buy anything under the sun that looks like a fight pattern arcade stick or a hitbox. At least I will. I mean, I'm going to lump everybody in with me tonight.
No, you're not wrong. I have. I mean, that one of my
The the Waybird is amazing. I still wish I could.
yeah.
I still wish I could find my old Waybird controller. I think it was. I had a silver Waybird that I got with the GameCube. The thing was fantastic. I loved it.
Hey, Manny.
Manny, you're gonna like the new name of my other streaming channel I'm gonna set up. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, Mike. I don't know if you want to start or if you want me to start. I got a bunch of stuff over here. I know you've got a bunch of stuff in the
I've
wings
got
too.
I have a bin, and I've got stuff that I pulled. I mean, there's stuff I haven't used in a while. There are some crazy controllers that I've got for various genres, for various types of games.
Yeah.
Now, my go-to right now that you know of, and everybody who's seen my channel knows.
Brian, the one I never used, the Power Glove.
Right. So everybody has seen who watches NLG has seen my X arcade stick. This thing is absolutely amazing. Number one. Number two, it is solid as a rock. It is an actual arcade parts, actual, you can, this thing is amazing. I've had it, as I tell people, I've had it for 21 years. This is the same one I reviewed for my Next Level Gaming website, and they liked the review so much. I was supposed to send it back, and they were like, it'll cost you too much to put this in a box and send it back because it's also heavy as crap. Just keep it. Thanks for the review. And so I did. And when I got Antstream Arcade for the Xbox Series X, I started to dig this thing out again and started to I got a bunch of emulators on my OG Xbox, and I started to play with this again. This thing is unbelievable. It's 2 sticks. Yeah, really? I'll use it for my headstone.
I'll let Mullis use it for his headstone.
No kidding. My wife, if she gets mad at me, could kill me with it. Let me see if I have. So there's and oddly enough, some of you young people out there would never know. This thing there's no USB or anything on it. It's got an old school 9-pin serial connector. But that serial connector connects to a box like this, which in this case, so this particular one's got GameCube adapters on it. But I have one of these for the OG Xbox, and I have one of these that is a 5-in-1. Connects to a Dreamcast, connects to PlayStation 1, which also PlayStation 2, which then also I branch off, which runs into a USB that goes into the Xbox. And I recently found a PlayStation to Saturn adapter, so now I can use this thing on my Saturn. This is so versatile. I'm finding that I'm almost using this more than I would use my regular Xbox controller. I certainly am going to use this more on my Saturn, except for the times when I absolutely need a 3D pad, which I also have back there, and I'll show you. So that's my first go-to controller. This is my baby.
The first one I'm going to show isn't a go-to controller, but it does link directly into Manny's comment. Back when I ordered Mortal Kombat 9 for my PS3, I won the arcade fight stick to plug it into the PS3 and play it like the good old days. Well,
yep, like this.
In
and one
that
more
case,
quick
I
thing.
happen to have this behemoth.
Yeah, there we go.
This is the Mortal Kombat controller that was the pre-order bonus for Mortal Kombat 9 back in the day on the PlayStation 3. One of the reasons I don't use it is because this layout's a little uncomfortable for me these days. I'm used to the 6-button layout being straight across. This back controller is a little tight, and these buttons are very, very stiff. However, it is a beautiful cabinet with this like gold latch that will open this up, and all the components are right in here, and the cable. It's a gorgeous controller. It's even got like Mortal Kombat written on the actual panel. If I can get my arm around here to open this up more fully, you may or may not be able to read that.
I see it.
But and the other thing that I love about this that I wish more controllers would do is the pad on the bottom of this thing is a dream. It's like this velveted pad thing. It's almost like having a good chair seat on the bottom of the arcade stick. So it's very comfortable to have in your lap because of that reason.
That's the one thing that this doesn't have.
I love about using arcade sticks. Well, I have a few other arcade sticks that I'm probably going to show here tonight. A couple of variations and a particular 5-pad that's actually really cool that I want to show you guys at some point too. I'm going to get this one out of the way because this is the heaviest one that I'm probably going to show tonight, quite frankly. And the bulkiest.
Oh, so while you're doing that, mine is not as comfortable as yours, and I should have opened it past. They tell you, and I don't know if you guys know this, but legally, they're like legally we can't tell you not to open this controller and will void your warranty because that's a myth. So they say we want you to open this thing up, and I have opened it up to adjust the stick and tighten up the buttons. You can buy any, and I'm sure it's like that with your Mortal Kombat stick. You can buy any buttons you want. I can buy any arcade buttons I want, any stick that I want, and replace the parts in here at will. And X Gaming still makes the parts and buttons and stuff as replacement. So if I break a button, easy to replace. It probably took me longer to take the case off, the bottom off, to get to the stuff than it was to actually make the adjustments. So I did also bring this down. Now this was for the Xbox 360. This was my
I was about to
Dead or
say,
Alive
I
4.
show we still have people on here, and it looks like we're still
Yeah,
running on both. So
yeah.
it might be either Rumble or his connection or something like that having an issue. If he's on
Yeah,
YouTube,
you're
it shouldn't be having a problem. YouTube's been pretty
yeah,
stable for me. Rumble had
yeah,
some issues earlier tonight.
well, he's up on the YouTube page, so it's still going on. It streams fine on YouTube.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just looked at it. It looked like it was going. It could have frozen or something. I have no idea.
Maybe. But I had this, and unfortunately, this is one thing I wish Microsoft would have
I
done.
think I
Was
might have something like that at some point. I
you probably
had
do? It's
some
just it's a
variant on a
Hori.
DOA controller for like the
Yeah,
360. Yeah.
it's just a
Those are
standard
pretty,
Hori.
dude. It's a
It is.
really inexpensive Hori controller, but it's nice, dude.
It
That's a good
really is, and
controller.
it played well.
Yeah.
Like it really, the buttons not bad at all. Obviously, not as good as an arcade button with the stick. Like you get that nice
Manny
click in
apparently
there.
won that controller that I got by guessing the closest amount of jelly beans in a jar. So I guess he got the regular copy
Wow.
and then won that as an extra bonus. That's cool. See, I spent the extra money to get that because when they told me I could get a full arcade stick with it, I was all down on it, man. I was all in. That's back when pre-order bonuses and extra collectibles were
Hmm.
actually worth it, dude.
Oh yeah. No, um so that's I unfortunately I can't really use this controller anymore simply because they don't make the backward compatibility is great for games, but they don't
It's
give you
not
an
good for
ability.
hardware. Yeah.
No, and it's sad
What you
because
might be able to do is I know there's some adapters, and I don't think I have one around me, but they do make USB adapters that convert up sticks.
okay,
Because
because
I
this
have one that makes things from like the PS4 work on the PS5 that don't work natively, and then I can get PlayStation controllers to work on Xbox by having one of the USB ones or Switch as well.
so
So you might want to look for something like that. I know they sell them; they're usually somewhere between like $30 and $60. It's usually cheaper than buying a new stick.
well, so it's funny you mention that
While Mike
because
is wandering off, I'll go back to the
no,
main
it's
screen.
funny you mention that because part of so this is the five-way adapter for
Yeah,
the
that's kind of
XR
it's the
stick,
same
right?
concept as your Arcade X thing, only it does it
But
through USB rather than doing
well,
it through a physical connector. Yeah.
hang on. So this is the Brook. This is a PlayStation 1/2 to USB. That's how that's how I can run the X arcade stick on the Xbox and
Yeah, yeah,
PC.
that makes sense. That makes
And
sense.
if I had a PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2 arcade stick or fighting stick,
Hmm.
that I believe is how I can make that run.
Yeah, you could
Um,
get one for Xbox, and Brooke makes those too.
correct. The kicker is the Dead or Alive 4 controller has
Welcome
a
back, Matt.
USB connector. It actually plugs into the USB, but it doesn't work on the series or on the Xbox One and above.
Oh, apparently Manny had a Black Ops jug mini fridge. That's kind of cool.
Ooh,
See, going into, that'd be another good episode too. Like pre-order bonuses didn't suck.
Yeah.
Because there was some good swag out there.
Yes, there was. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke. So,
Don't fix it.
All right, what's your next one?
Let me pull this one out here because this is going to probably be the weirdest one I have tonight, or the most modular. So, this one is the Victrix Pro PDP. This is just the outside case. When you open this up, inside you'll see that it has the cable and some accessories. So, this is the base controller with like the D-pad, and the D-pad is swappable. This you can actually disconnect and flip around, and this you can remove or swap around as you choose, and you can actually put this in here. So if I were to pull this out, like so, you have the screwdriver that's in here, like this. And then you just, if I can get this in here where anybody can see it, boom. This comes completely out. Now you can flip this around a completely different direction if you so choose. I do believe it's not one to go in. Maybe I'm incorrect in that assumption. But you can grab, and this is why I initially bought it more normally, was to be able to do the 5-pad configuration. And now you have a configured 5-pad. The other nice thing about this is it actually comes with 2 other D-pad types. There's a standard cross, and the more raised cross that you guys can see. And then it has different stocks as well that it comes with different sizes, kind of like how the Xbox would do it. So on this, you can actually just pop this completely out and pop a new one in. And this works through wireless and wired, and you can actually turn the wireless off. You can also adjust the tension on the triggers for the response and how fast the buttons respond. It's a pretty expensive controller, but for the flexibility of it, it's really cool. I've been known to break this out for a couple fighters. I've been known to try it on a couple different configurations of shooters and FPS games and things like that. The software is not the best. I think it works better on the PlayStation because this is the PlayStation version. They have an Xbox version of this as well. But it's such a neat controller. I have a hard time not loving it for just how wild and how flexible it is and what you can do with it. And everything just stays contained inside the case. The one weird thing that they did that I don't really agree with is they made the PlayStation version, but the controller's 2.4G wireless. So you have to plug this into the PlayStation to use it wirelessly, which I thought was stupid. If you were going to make a PlayStation version, you should have just made it Bluetooth and been done with it.
Well,
so I don't understand why they did that.
Some of it is for compatibility with older machines that may not have Bluetooth, and the adapters I think are a little more expensive. I remember when I bought my RetroBit Saturn controller, I had the option between getting the 2.5 gigahertz or a Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth was like $5 more.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That's
Sai says don't trust it. It's a Decepticon. As far as D-pad controller go, love the Panasonic 3DO controllers. It says Big Block. It worked better with his adult hands. Oh, thank you, Pat. I like this shirt. I got the PS5 Pro controller, and it's definitely not worth the $200. See, I don't have that one. I do have the Elite, and I think the Elite's actually kind of worth the money. I've been pretty happy with those. It's not just a controller, it's a transformer. So yeah, that was my next one, and probably the most complicated one that I'll show tonight. Quite frankly, um, maybe not the weirdest one, depending on your point of view, because I have some hitbox stuff that I know I've explained to people before, but it seems to always confuse the crowd. And I think Eugene popped in. Hey, Eugene.
Hey, Gene. I take it. Yep. So back in the day, there was a company called Gamester. They were a controller company, kind of like Mad Catz, kind of like, um, you
Yeah,
know,
I remember their quality being kind of in the middle. Like they weren't quite Mad Catz level. Mad Catz wasn't the best back then either.
they had some
Mad
cool
Catz
stuff
could do some
though.
really good stuff, but they did a lot of cheap trash too.
Yes, I will say most all of my Mad Cat stuff, including my steering wheels, were all great. Like my still to this day, not that I can use it because there's no method to it unless you have a CRT. But my light gun for my Dreamcast is Mad Catz. Um, I have had Mad Cat steering wheels that have been great. I'm my go-to Dreamcast controller is the Mad Catz. But Gamester came up with some unique and interesting controllers, and
The Mad Catz and
Pelican was the
Pelican
other one.
days.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pelican was the other. In fact, that you remember when we had to get switch boxes for all of our stuff, right? And you would to plug in all of your either component cables or your
Oh
uh,
yeah, no, I
yellow.
actually have actually used that for HDMI. Quite frankly, because there's not enough ports on the TV,
Yeah, and
and
I've done that for
without a
I have that
receiver,
for
you need like an
HDMI.
HDMI switcher. It's the same
Yeah,
concept.
exactly. But it was for older cables. Mine, I had a Pelican that did like 12 of them. It was great. So, Gamester made this Xbox first person shooter controller that looked like this sucker. And
Oh, I've
um, I,
seen that.
this is
Yeah, I
I'll
think I
tell you
almost
what,
did like a
I, I,
shit, I can't remember the name of the series. I had one where I was looking at weird controllers and weird peripherals, and I think I almost did this one.
hey, Scrambled, this was badass and it worked great. Believe it or not, it worked great. So you had your sticks, you had a D-pad down here if you needed it. You do have your back start and your white and your black buttons, which would typically be, you have X, X, Y, A, B,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
A,
yeah.
B,
And
X,
then they had the
Y,
white
and
and
then you
black
have
buttons on the
white and
original
black there.
Xbox.
So
Yes.
your white and black buttons are here, and you're going, well, where's the rest of the buttons? So your triggers are actual
Gun triggers.
triggers, which are
Yeah.
really nice. Your other buttons are here. So you could use both sticks without taking your fingers off the sticks. You could use these buttons
Yeah,
to
that's the
do your other
earliest that
functions.
concept existed then, I think, because I know the elites did that. But I never knew where that originated from. That might actually be a little bit earlier than that too.
This, yeah, I use this. I really honestly so like and they're labeled too. So
Hey,
let's see if
by
I
the
can
way,
get up there.
Scrambles. Sorry if I didn't say hi when you come in. We're kind of doing show and tell, so it's kind of hard for me to keep track of everything.
Yeah. So there's the AX on the other side, and there's the BY. So the other thing you could do with that was you could you could let me see if I can turn my
Yeah, you can
light
kind of
there.
program it, right?
You could program it. So you could
Yeah.
program the buttons themselves, but you can also program macros.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Okay.
Do you
That's
have a
pretty early for those, actually. Macros
I
weren't as big of a thing
really
on the Xbox, original Xbox. There were a few controllers, like there was a Mortal Kombat controller that had carts and stuff like that would program like moves and fatalities and stuff. So they were doing some programming on controllers, but it
mhm.
wasn't really prevalent until like 360 or
and I
later.
and I want to say that you could save because it's got a memory card slot. I believe you could save the configurations to the memory card.
Okay.
I, don't quote me on that, but I remember I remember I remember you not having to do it every time you fired up the controller.
Does it not have
And
any onboard memory? Because it's got that what looks like an LCD screen.
it does have an LCD screen, but I think that it's stored. I may have to fire this sucker up. I'm almost positive you stored the configuration on the memory card.
I mean, that would probably be the cheapest solution, though. We didn't have to have onboard memory for it.
So, well, not just that, but it would also, I think it would also make it a more feasible solution instead of hoping that the onboard ROM didn't, glitch out, or if there was a battery in there, the battery didn't die.
Right, right, right.
So kind of like a VMU, right? Kind of like how you stored everything on a VMU.
Yeah. But the VMU batteries are notoriously fast dying because of the screen.
Yes. Yes.
Depending if you played with it much outside of the having it in the controller, right? If you took it
Yes.
on the go, you could very easily kill the battery.
Yes.
But it's like I subbed down. He's like, let's see how you like it when I sub. You guys are great. Zombie, what's up?
What's up, Zombie?
Sorry, Jaguar and 50R.
Yeah. I wish I still had my Jaguar. No. Unlike some people, I feel regret for selling my systems.
Okay. So I was gonna lay down, no more talkie, but he's gonna listen. So
Just
now we
as he
can
said.
officially crap talk
Just
sign.
as
He
he
can't
said
talk back. Perfect. Perfect.
The timing on that was absolutely perfect. That came in just as I was talking crap about him. Oh my goodness, that is. No, but well, Sai, I'm glad you got to see my Saru. I'm hoping I will let you know when I do the Monday Night Retro so that you can check it out. And Zombie, by the way, shout out to Zombie. Zombie has actually popped into a couple of my Rumble streams lately, like in the last month or two. He's popped in one or two. So shout out to you, Zombie.
Zombie's a
Scramble
great
said,
dude.
I'm making chiptune inspired music now. Ooh, okay.
Nice.
All right. You got
Who's making chiptune
need
music
to.
now?
Huh?
Who's making chiptune music now?
Scrambles.
Ooh, Scrambles. Nice.
You know Scrambles plays guitar, right?
Yeah, I knew Scrambles did music.
Okay.
He had talked about that a little bit. I wasn't sure how deep into it he had gotten now. So I think it's my turn. I will.
It is your turn.
My next controller here, and I've talked about these before, and I have another one of these coming in. So I might revisit this a little bit when that one comes in. I'll show some pictures of the one that I ordered because it's a little more modular than this one. This one's kind of a mess because I've been using it. This is what's known as a hitbox. This is my most current revision of a hitbox, and the reason it looks like, there are buttons everywhere is because there are buttons everywhere. There's extra buttons that you don't normally have on an arcade stick, primarily so that you can program them to do different things or put things in different locations, like macros that people would normally have on a regular controller that are harder to reach on an arcade stick or impossible to reach just because they're not configured there. The reason it's all buttons is because generally these buttons here are your back, up, and forward, and then this button down here is your jump button. And actually it's, that would be your jump button. And then these are your normal, like, fighting buttons, and these you can set to various different things, the ones on the top and the bottom. One of the reasons for having a stick particularly like this when it comes to more of an arcade setting is the lack of missed inputs. Missing inputs when you're doing directional on an actual arcade stick can sometimes be problematic, or you can just be inconsistent and it causes you grief and then you miss inputs. This allows you to do some kind of neat, tricky things. If you've ever looked up a hitbox, some of the way they do some of the inputs is kind of wild. And so you can do some things way faster, some things are a little harder. But the biggest thing is kind of consistency and speed. It's very, very, very fast to use this rather than using a standard arcade stick. And for those of you who think, well, why don't you just use the up arrows on your keyboard? They actually have ones built like this that have those up arrows and then have the regular fighting buttons off to the side as well. So you can get these in that kind of configuration. This is just kind of my preferred configuration for this. And it looks weird and daunting, and it is kind of weird and daunting, but it's really, really cool once you start getting used to them. And it's super handy. This is a third-party one that's actually probably one of the more inexpensive one of these that I own. I own a Kitsune, which I can get that one real quick. That is prettier. But also has fewer buttons on it. But you can get a better idea of how the base layout's supposed to work, right? Because, again, these are your movement. Down here is your jump. And then over here are the rest of your buttons for your fighting, right? This one's just pretty. This was the first one I got that was super duper comfortable. That I realized some of the buttons weren't where I needed them, and I wanted them in a new location, so I bought a different one.
That's really nice. That's a pretty stick, or well, you can't even call it a stick because it doesn't have any stick.
They still call it a fight stick. They just call it leverless. They call them leverless fight sticks, is what they refer to them as.
That's very cool.
That's convenient. I have that many fingers.
So,
oh, Scrambles, don't worry about it, man. I'm glad you could pop in for as long as you could pop in, man.
Yeah. Oh no, he was saying he was because I had said Zombie had popped in a couple of my Rumble streams, and he's saying they do not allow him to use Rumble at work.
Oh,
it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't go to Rumble's webpage at work. I honestly don't go to YouTube or anything at work. I just kind of leave it alone. I may put a movie or something off to the side because I have a desk job and I kind of listen to something passively. And occasionally look over and see what's going on. But for the most part, I avoid that stuff at work. Just keeps me out of trouble.
Actually, I listen to stuff during the day, but I don't interact with people a lot just because I'm working. So,
what about the PS remote control? Is that a controller? I wouldn't call it one personally.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix it later. It's bugging me. One of the pegs on my pegboard holding my controllers is kind of out of whack, and it's kind of annoying me. I don't want to try to fix it during stream though. It's not slotted properly, and I'm like, that's gonna fall, and it's gonna bug me. So yeah, that's what I've got at least for right now. Mike, what's your next thing? I've got a lot of fight sticks and pads, so I've got a couple other fight sticks I can show, and a couple of go-to pads, like my Elite controller, some of the 8-bito stuff. The 8-bito stuff is great. Matter of fact, I can go ahead and pull that down.
Yeah, and my I kind of didn't pull the my 8-bit, my RetroBit Saturn controller just because. I mean, it's a Saturn controller. It's just wireless. Right. But my other go-to when I am playing on the Saturn is, of course, the 3D controller. And I've had this.
Zombie was just talking about that.
Yep. I've had this one since the launch of Knights. So this is also a, what is this, 2007, 17. It's a 20 some odd year old controller, almost 30-year-old controller actually, and still works great. And in fact, they remade games for this controller like Daytona and Sega Rally. When they redid those for like the Netlink, they also added the analog controls. Now there's been a
hold on one second. Let me flip back.
Yeah,
hey,
I saw
Integrity. I have a lot of stuff about old games because this is primarily a game history channel. As far as collecting or how to get into collecting, not specifically. As far as setting up streaming, I don't really do tech guides on here. But if you have some questions, we could probably help you
Yeah,
out a little bit
between
through
the
the
two of
stream
us,
here
yeah,
and
we
there.
both stream.
It is off
Um,
topic, but we don't mind helping out. If you have some questions
yeah,
on
of
it, just
course.
be kind of pointed about the questions so we know what you're talking about, so we don't have to like fish for stuff. You know what I mean? Like if you got some specifics, we can answer that. But I don't have any tutorials built. It's mostly because it doesn't fit with the theme of the channel. Not that I don't feel comfortable doing them; they just don't fit within the theme and scope of this particular channel. So I try to keep it off of the channel because it just doesn't work here.
Right. Um,
No, you're
it's
fine, dude. You're fine.
yeah.
Questions are always welcome, man, and you're welcome to ask as many of them as you want here. And like I said, if there's anything we can answer for you, we're happy to do it. No problem.
Yeah. We're both content creators. We both do this
And a
a
lot of
lot.
people in chat are too. So if we don't answer it, some of the people in chat may be answered too,
Oh gosh,
because
yeah.
you've got a lot of people here have their own channels.
Yeah.
So yeah,
As
ask
far as
away.
a beginner's guide to getting into old gaming, a lot of it has to do with what you are willing to. What are you willing to do as far as, are you looking for hardware? Are you looking to collect? Or are you just looking to get into stuff? Because
Yeah,
there's a
if you just
few
want to
ways to do it.
play like older games, like you just want to play them, you're not worried about owning them. Um, the the bad guy way is to do emulation, which is really easy to set up. If you're willing to pay some money to have like legal emulation, you can do things like get the Switch Online service. That'll
And
get you
Stream
access
Arcade.
to Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, NES, Genesis, Nintendo 64, and I think that's about it right now. They have like a ton of downloadable apps that have tons of the older games that you can basically just play through that service.
Yep. And
You're looking to get some old PS2 games.
okay.
Okay, so PS2 is pretty easy to emulate, but getting a working PS2 is not that hard. The difficult part of the PS2 is going to be the connecting, because whether or not your TV has the component cable connectors on the back, you would need a red, yellow, and white connector on the back. Two for audio, left and right on audio, and the yellow would be for your video, right? That's the most common connector. You might be able to find adapters that will change that over to HDMI if you look on Amazon. There's almost a converter for almost everything now if you look for it enough. So that might be one of the things that you could basically look to be able to play those. So you can do that in original hardware, or you can emulate it. It works both ways. PS2 emulation's not that bad now. It's easier to do on PC still than it is on a Pi, but I think it works pretty well on the Pi 4, honestly. Yes, Manny. I do remember that controller, and actually, I may have done a video on that controller. I know I did one on the Katana. I can't remember if I did one on the chainsaw controller. I said emulate, and down we go.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm glad you weren't here earlier. I'm glad you weren't here earlier, Zombie.
Manny, to your question about the Guitar Hero controllers, yeah, I would consider those controllers. They're very specifically designed
Oh, you mean
for
this?
things like Rock Band and Guitar Hero, but they're absolutely controllers. Absolutely.
We mean this.
Yeah. He means that. Hold on. There you go.
So, I have actually. This is one of the two that I have for the
RE4 didn't have a Katana controller. Trying to remember the name. Onimusha, I think, had one. What's up, Torso?
So there were two. By the way, there were two different types of controllers. So you had Guitar Hero, which was Red Octane, and then you had Rock Band, which was harmonics. So I have both. I should have brought the Rock Band one down too, but there are some very subtle differences in these controllers. So, for example, this is an Xbox 360 Guitar Hero controller. It has a lot of the same things. Now, this one's wireless. My Harmonix Rock Band controller actually is wired. it has the same, because Rock Band and Guitar Hero had the same setup. So you have the same 5 frets, and you could, all that. It had the same strum. This one had I think they both had a whammy bar, but this one also has a star button here that you could press to do your star stuff. And when you're doing solos, this actually has an inner fretboard that you could slide up and down. You didn't necessarily have to press it down. You could just slide and do some weird, crazy stuff in there. So in some of the later Guitar Hero stuff, when you're playing on hard and expert, you can get in here, you're doing your thing, you're strumming and all that. And then once you get to a solo, you could slide in here and do some freestyle stuff. And you couldn't do that with Rock Band, but you could do it with Guitar Hero. And these were great controllers. I've actually seen people play actual other games with these. Like there's people that like freaking beat Doom on a Guitar Hero controller. So
I've seen people go through like freaking Demon Souls on a Dance Dance Revolution pad.
yes.
It's just
This, by the way, also had a removable neck. So this controller, you could take the neck off and replace it with a different neck if you wanted to, which was really neat. So the controller, there's the port in there. So if you wanted to replace it with a more standard that didn't have the inner fretboard, or you had they made a different style that you liked, maybe a thinner plastic or something like that, you could actually, this was modular.
Thanks for popping in.
So
good to see you.
Hey, Nelly!
I was in her stream earlier. That's the one I have trouble getting back to.
Nelly!
Let me jump into the screen view because I have something up here. And I'm going to resize this a little bit so it kind of covers this a little bit. So
that her animated avatar shows up in your...
yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, when I first... Yeah, I saw that when she was playing with us.
Oh, God, I've got too many things that are unlocked in here. I got to lock this down more.
Ooh, oh, holy crap.
This is the Onimusha Katana controller. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. I'm having a hard time resizing things. But yeah, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so I can kind of move it around a little bit here. That way you guys can kind of see this full screen. This was a wall controller that came as it was kind of like a really rare pre-order controller because they didn't make that many of them. It's not that it's that difficult of a controller. It is a little bit awkward to use because you can see you've got like the buttons here, right? The 4 main buttons here, and then you got your analog stick and your D-pad, another analog stick here, and then a fake sheath because you didn't really have anything attached there, and then you had the stand. So it was more of a display piece, kind of like the chainsaw controller, but it was definitely like a really cool idea for a controller and a pre-order bonus. It's another one of those from back in that day of like really cool pre-order bonus stuff that would pop up from time to time. So that's one of those for you guys that were kind of like, whoa, the Katana controller?
That's wild.
So yeah, that's one of the more bizarre ones. I never got that one myself because I didn't have a PlayStation at the time. I think it was a PlayStation 2 game.
Onimusha? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's no problem, Nelly. It was a pleasure hanging out.
Yeah.
I need to, I gotta find her because I gotta make sure I follow her because I don't think I did that I don't think I did that while I was there.
Shame on you.
Yeah.
Nelly, I
don't normally watch a lot of COD.
I know you don't. I know that you don't.
I'm not a COD guy.
I know that you're not.
I'm not a Call of Duty guy.
I'm not asking you to be. I'm simply saying she ran with us.
Keeps crashing, and I have no idea why.
She ran with us last week, and actually, first stream I ever saw Nelly. We raided Nelly. That's how I met her and her stream. We raided her one night, and she got the giggles, something crazy, and I just thought that was the most adorable thing. I'm just pointing that out. So,
350 plus for that controller. You know what? To have them as a display piece, I can totally see it. Because
No,
one of the things
I
I kind
can't.
of want to do is if I ever get things configured, like I have this big sign thing I want to put up, but I also want to put some shelves and some lighting around it. And I would love to have like a Rob the Robot, maybe a Virtual Boy or a Power Glove and stuff like that, just kind of sitting there as display pieces. Because as display pieces, those things are awesome, right? They're not anything I want to actively play with, but they're really cool and nostalgic, right? So having them as a display piece would just be phenomenal.
Eh, I could. Maybe okay. Maybe
Later, Bat. Thanks
pre.
for popping in, man.
Good night, Batman. Maybe pre wife and kids, and when I had disposable income, sure. If I bought that now, my wife would have my ass. There's just no way I could buy a 300. I'm sitting here talking about emulating using a Saru to do an optical drive emulator for the Saturn because I don't want to pay $500 to play Power Stone or Power Slave. Ain't
Yeah.
no way I'm going to be able to spend $350 on a controller like that.
Yeah, I don't. I think the Rubber Robot's actually significant cheaper. A Virtual Boy's more expensive. Power Gloves vary, um, but then on a Power Glove, I wouldn't need a working one. I don't need it to work. I just want the glove. And apparently, YouTube is complaining that my bitrate is too low. I had it set to like 7,000 kilobytes a second, and it wants it to be like 13.5. I'm like, okay.
Sure.
I can't
Bring
do
it
that. I
on.
can't do that midstream. I don't think you can adjust that midstream. But I'll totally bump that up moving
Actually,
forward.
I think you can do it midstream. You could change bit rate. Your microphone's going out though.
I hate that. Is that any better?
Yes, you're back.
Okay. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna really gonna have to think with that cable. Hold on, it's like me. Apply. Okie dokie. Let's see if that took. Because I just changed it. I don't know if it did anything or not because we're live. And Rumble may not like it.
Yeah, no, you could. That's the one thing you can do. We're being hacked. Zombies bouncing back and forth.
It's still complaining about it, so I don't know. Maybe it's not caught it. I have no idea. Whatever. It'll be there. It'll be there for next time. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll just leave it set that way because if that's the way he wants it, that's the way he wants it. That's okay. I'm alright with that. I'm okay with having more, like, trying to use more bandwidth. I was trying to keep it more reserved because I figured they didn't want you going above a certain amount. So whatever.
They say that, but at the end of the day, if you whatever you set it for, it's gonna like. I've got mine set for 8K just because that's like what the median Rumble is, and whatever algorithm they use seems to work really nicely.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Studio's complaining. It's like they're not getting enough. They're not getting enough data. I'm like, okay.
yeah, we can give you more data.
I'm like, I just tried to give you more data. All right, sorry guys. Hopefully I'll
Take
have
the
that.
data.
Hopefully
Take
with
the
that
data,
change, we
YouTube.
won't
Take
have
the
that
data.
problem moving forward.
Take the damn data, YouTube.
I don't know. All right, we'll just get back to it. Sorry guys. Not really a technical problem on my end because I've had it set this way for a long time and it was behaving, and now it's just acting funky. Commander data. So hopefully it's not too bad on YouTube. I apologize, guys. I'll try to work on that moving forward.
Zombie, you need to get your avatar set up down there.
So Mike, I think we're at you because I pulled up that one controller because we had mentioned it, so I felt I should probably show it to people.
Yeah. So everybody knows that multi-taps were the big thing when you needed multiple.
Galaxy.
Hey, Galaxy. What's going on, man? Everybody knows you needed a multi-tap if you wanted to play, say, a Sega Genesis game, and you had 4 controllers, and you had a game that played 4, right?
Or you just
That
got one of the cartridges that had 2 ports plugged into it. I mean, come on, how cheap are you?
there's that. But
Those did exist.
yes, they did. But what happened? What happened on the PlayStation? Well, our good friends at Gamester created this contraption. So
Oh, were they daisy chaining? They were. They
no.
were.
So what if you wanted to mess with your opponent? I've
I mean,
actually
when
played with
don't
this.
I?
So let's say you're
The better
let's
question is
say you're
why wouldn't I?
yeah, well let's say you're playing a fighting game, you and your friend, and you're ready for him to throw you out of the house. So Gamester created these
Again,
dual
when am I not?
yeah, uh, Gamester created these. These are for the PlayStation 2. They do have dual sticks. These were dual shocks. They had all the buttons, all the niceties and things like that. But this had a neat little box, and I apologize for the lack of focus. Let me see if it'll focus in. The this box would actually send things to the other person's controller. So you could flip on a possession and you could possess the other person's controller. You can switch their controls. You could, and then it would send these random things to
This
the other
explains
controller.
why you were actually pretty good when Panda asked you to flip the controller upside down the other day.
That's
You were
right.
tortured as a child, weren't you?
Yeah. Um, as controllers go, again, solid controller. And there's these neat so the
That's
controller
not a
had
bad
LED
looking controller. Actually, I like that D-pad better than I do the PlayStation based D-pad.
and it feels good. Now the D-pad's a little recessed in, but it feels really good in your hand. Like it's molded really nicely.
Yeah,
I am not a fan of the DualShock, but this one the sticks are a little farther in than I would like.
yeah.
Kind of stresses your let me go sideways here. Kind of stresses your thumbs out a little bit, but once you're kind of in it, it's not bad. The triggers are in nice spots. There's actually a nice or middle or ring finger, depending on what you hold. Rest. There's like a shelf there, kind of
Huh.
like
Okay.
us archery buffs call this an arrow shelf. There that you can sit your middle finger on
Galaxy
and
says, I
really
bet Mike
grip.
loved messing with people playing with that.
Oh yeah. Well, it was random. So you turned on what you wanted, and then it would send them randomly to the other person. And if it did, it lit up on their controller. There's these LEDs there, and so it would light up what was happening to you. So these were great. Oh, here's how you got it. So I'm sorry, you pressed the middle
Dread!
button.
Good to see you, man.
Hey, Dread, what's up?
I'm going to apologize if there's latency, Dread. It's been kind of an issue with YouTube tonight.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I thought it was random. It's not. There's this button in the middle of the controller. When you want to send something to the other controller, you press it, and that sends something to the other controller. So you, in the middle of a match, could turn on something, turn off something, turn on something, and then send it to them. Or you could turn on multiple things, and if you hit the button, it would send one of those to them randomly. So that's what. But this was like I actually tried these out the other day with the Brook, and um, they don't work with anything else. But when I had a PlayStation 2, these were great. These were fun.
That's messed up. I like the
Yes.
idea of it. And Galaxy, I don't remember a multi-tap on the SNES. I knew the NES had one because it only had 2 controller ports. And there were some games you could do 4-player. So you would have that they had an NES Power Tab that they had that would allow you to do 4-player. And the Genesis had one as well, because it only had 2 ports natively. I guess the SNES did have one, because I think it only had 2 controller ports as well. It was until the N64 that they put 4 in. Yeah, the GameCube controller is just a good controller overall. It's just a really good controller. So I'm going to deviate from weird controllers to one of my kind of go-to controllers, because this is one that I tend to go to a lot and use. And this is just a basic 8-bit Pro 2 controller. This isn't anything fancy, doesn't do anything new. It's got your basic triggers. It's got like a few buttons here on the back that I never use. You can use it wired or wirelessly, and I just like the layout because it's got a very SNES style layout, and it's very comfortable to hold. The analog sticks are in the PlayStation layout, which is I'm used to, and that works. This is also kind of an inexpensive controller, coming in at like roughly around $50. And I've always advocated for these controllers because they're budget conscious and they work on almost every platform. You can get these things to work on PlayStation, you can get them to work on Android, you can get them to work on Apple, you can get them to work on a Switch, you can get them to work on PC, you can get them to work on an Xbox, on anything. I've yet to find a platform these things don't work on.
Nice.
Now, you don't always get all the feature sets of the controllers for those natively, but if you're looking for like a second controller for somebody to use, or just one to use sitting at your computer in an area where you're not worried about those, these are kind of amazing. And they're very cost effective too. And they have some that are just styled. They don't have the legs here. That's just the SNES pad. I have one of those downstairs. I don't think I have one up here to show. And those are fantastic as well if you prefer the SNES pad with all the feature sets of a more modern controller, meaning you get your bumper and triggers. So that's another great solution if you're looking for those. Those things are kind of amazing. Check out those JD8 sleeves. Okay, hold on. Let me see if we can find it. I will look for that while Mike goes into his next thing.
Let's see. What else have I got? I am running out. However,
I am too.
There was a, well, I mean, I've got, okay. So obviously, where did it go? I pulled out.
Where did you put it on JDA's server, Manny? I guess I'm not seeing it right now. Hold on. Maybe I found it. Give me a minute.
Okay. Anybody ever play a game called Seen It?
Oh, I don't know if I've played it, but I've seen it before.
So this was an Xbox 360 game as well, which had this neat little controller.
Yeah, YouTube's been complaining that I didn't give it enough bandwidth when I started the stream, and I tried to adjust it on the fly, but I don't think it took. So
yeah, but Dread notoriously has had issues with the Rumble app. So, hey Namron,
how you doing, man? Yeah, so sorry, Dread. I'm hope the adjustment will take and I won't have that problem next time. I hope. And so we're just gonna have to deal with it tonight, unfortunately, because I'd have to stop and start the stream, and we're so deep into the stream, I kind of don't want to do that tonight, honestly. So I apologize to everybody on YouTube. I will endeavor to do better. Mike, there's a.
I'm starting to. Yes, I am. Oh, nice. I got it. Nice. Welcome down to the other side.
All right, I'm gonna have to write that down and translate that, or you can explain it to me later. I'm drawing a blank. I'm not reading in reverse properly.
It's Manny.
Oh, okay. Got it. My bad. Mike needs to do a live stream using the controller with chat controlling with the button hits.
You know, there used to be Mixer used to let you do that stuff, where Mixer used to. There was an integration that Microsoft tried with Mixer, when they bought Mixer that did that, that allowed you to kind of move along the player. And there was another game that came out
Your
for
controller
the
looks like a
Xbox.
bathroom gadget.
There's another game that came out for the Xbox. I can't remember what it was called. It was an Xbox One, series game that people could connect to the game and vote on the choice you make. Like, so you say where, what do you want to do? And the whole group would vote, and whichever got the most votes, that's what the game would do. So they've experimented with stuff like that, actually, Dread. But Seen It was a trivia game, and instead of needing a full-on controller, you had just this.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
And it was basically, think of this like a game show controller, right? So the question would come up on the screen. You would
you
click the
buzz
button,
in, and then you pick your
buzz
answer
in,
with one
and
of
then
the
you'd
other
have
buttons.
you'd have your multiple choice buttons. Very simple controller, very easy, it ran on AA batteries like all the other ones. And this was actually, it wasn't wireless to the 360. It had an RF. Let me open up the box.
Oh, so you got to have an RF receiver?
Yeah, which came with it. Yeah, here it is.
It looks like the remote to page my nurses at the hospital.
It kind of was in a way. So here's so it had this, and I had 4 controllers. So it had this little receiver that plugged into the Xbox, and then the key was you had to point this at the receiver or it didn't pick up. So play Seen It and give yourself a massage. Oh my goodness. But we had a lot of fun with this. The only issue that you have with these games on the 360, where you wouldn't necessarily have that problem anymore, is the 360 was not as download dynamic, let's say, as, say at Xbox, PlayStation 5, or PC now. So you were stuck with the questions that were on the CD. So
right. Well, that's a lot of those, like You Don't Know Jack and all those were kind of the same way back in the day, right?
Once you got through the whole gambit of questions, unless you bought the next Seen It game, which they did make multiple games, you could buy the game standalone without the controllers. You were done.
Yeah.
So I'll take these old batteries out so you don't. I'm surprised these old batteries haven't
corroded.
Yeah. I really enjoyed playing this. This was a game that I was able to play with my wife, with a friend, so my, Michelle and I, and, some friends would play this. This wasn't innovative, but it was different. That was Seen It.
Yeah, I've got a couple other 8BitO things here just because I like the product brand, and some of these are really nice. And kind of show you the scope of some of the products that they do come out with. Not that I'm sponsored by 8BitO. Call me. This is like an NES arcade stick. This thing's wireless. And actually even has the receiver kind of here so that you can sort of connect it. Just pull that out and set it up that way. And I don't think it even needs that for the Switch. I don't think. If I recall. I'm having trouble getting this thing slotted back. I'll have to deal with it later. But honestly, this feels really nice. It's a pretty inexpensive arcade stick as far as arcade sticks go. The movement on it's actually really good. The buttons are nice and clean. You probably you can kind of hear them. They're really responsive. They're really quick. And honestly, for like shooters and some of the arcade games, some of the older arcade games, this is really nice. I actually got it because I was going to pick up MVC2 on the Switch and play that with a buddy of mine. So we both kind of ended up getting these, and I still should probably pick it up on there because I'd like to get a physical copy of it. And the Nintendo was supposed to have a copy of it physically, so that was kind of one of the reasons that we picked these up. So that's one of the two. The other one, and I've yet to get this one mapped properly, particularly through emulation, so it's kind of frustrating. I was hoping for more for it. This is a 6-button Genesis styled version of the controller. Now, this isn't my absolute favorite D-pad, but I thought this would be fantastic for being able to map things out better for, say, like Forgotten Worlds and things like that, right? So that you could have more things mapped out and have things a little bit cleaner for some of the games that actually can use more buttons and be able to get to some more of the fighters and things like that that they have on the Genesis that might work better with this kind of controller. Unfortunately, I could never get things to map right through the emulation, so I didn't get as much use out of this as I want to. However, it's just a fun, nice, very light controller. It's also part of the 8-bit line. Now, there's a couple other people making these style controllers for competitive prices that are honestly pretty good. I think Panda uses one from another company that's honestly really good. This is just a brand that I've trusted for a while. So those are some of the other ones that I had that are kind of in that vein.
Well, so with that, I did.
It looks like it would have come out during the 80s and sold by Ray. You know what, though? The build quality is amazing,
Realistic,
dude.
right? They would be called realistic. Yeah.
The build quality on that arcade stick is really good. I was shocked for the price. It's super good.
Yeah, I know you've liked that one. So
Yeah, Galaxy's got the Genesis one. That's cool. It's a good controller, dude.
Yeah.
History of Wave video. Yeah, I never dove into Mixer. I knew a lot of people loved Mixer, and then they just kind of went under. Panda! Good to see you.
Tiny Panda Face!
Tiny
What's
Panda
up,
Face!
Mixer's issue is they got bought by Microsoft, and then Microsoft did Microsoft things. They decided, this can't make us a lot of money, so we'll sell it off to Facebook.
Yeah. Did Facebook's live servers ever go anywhere? I know they were trying to push into gaming. I don't know if it ever went anywhere.
Not really. No, not really.
Somewhere on it.
Well, so I have the RetroBit Saturn controller, which is similar.
RetroBit is the one that Panda buys from, and
yes.
He says those are really good too. I don't have a lot
of
their stuff.
So when I am not using like the tank stick now, or when I don't want to use when I want a wired controller, this is my go-to for the Saturn. I've used this for a while. I did a video on this controller that I'm probably going to redo and put up on Rumble for nobody to see. Nobody saw it on YouTube. So, but the build quality of this is also fairly solid. It doesn't feel like it would be. The D-pad is kind of the outer rim recesses in and the D-pad sticks out a little bit, so it really feels good on your thumb. These buttons feel like they should be flimsy, but they do work really well. It's got a programmable for PC, a programmable set of mode buttons. There's your start, standard triggers, and your standard USB. Now you could actually use this wired if you wanted to, but or at least you could charge it while you're playing it. Otherwise, works really, really well. I mean, it's a solid controller. I used it a lot. The other one, and I figured while I was over there, I would grab it. So only because this also works on PCs if you wish for it to. But if you own an Atari VCS or don't, and still own this controller.
The U-Force I actually did a video on, Zombie. That thing was bizarre.
Did Zombie? Were you here when I showed my my Gamestar Xbox FPS controller? If not, I can pull that one back in. The Retrobit has a black version too. I got the white version simply because I have all the black regular Saturn controllers, and I wanted the Japanese European look. You can also, by the way, this is a 2.5 gig wireless, but you can get a Bluetooth option. In retrospect, would I have gotten the Bluetooth one? I'm not sure. This one has damn near no lag. I just wasn't sure if the Bluetooth would. So I went with what was safe, and I'm only 12 feet from the television, and I'm line of sight to the console. So what did you mean by that?
Yeah, Retrobit probably has a black variation on that too, Galaxy. You're probably right.
Yeah, they do.
Here's the U-Force that Zombie
Oh
was
my
talking
gosh,
about.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, I made a video on this. This thing was wild. It kind of used like an RF field between this plate and this plate. So you could, in theory, you could do the toggle switches on. You could use this in Mike Tyson's Punch Out to literally punch into this field, to actually punch in Mike Tyson's Punch Out. This was basically just sort of a plastic column that you would put in here. And what that allowed you to do is to kind of control like jet motions and things like that, but just kind of moving it around. But it would have you kind of in the field, so it was operating more off the field than it was off the actual controller itself. I think these bottom plates were supposed to be reflectors to kind of help things be a little bit cleaner while you were using it. All reports, this was a great idea. Another one of those amazing ideas with kind of poor execution. That no one could really kind of figure out. I want to see if we can find another one that nobody mentioned. Keep mistyping it. Oh, there's no images of it here. No, there it is. Save this. This is another very stupid controller. Save both of these. We've gone into weird controller territory, and I'm okay with that because it's a good way to kind of wind down the evening.
Yeah. The Mind Link.
Yes, the Mind Link. This thing, this thing never hit production. Okay, this is the Atari Mind Link, and this thing was demoed, and it apparently melted while it was on stage while somebody was wearing it. But supposedly you're able to control video games with the power of your mind, but it actually kind of fired some infrared sensors at your forehead, and would read slight, minute motions in your forehead to control the game. And so the idea was more that it would, oh wow, that came out super small, that's gonna look jank when I blow it up, is it would sit here like this, right? And then you would just kind of move your eyebrows and stuff, and apparently it gave people headaches for one, because of all the eye motion and stuff like that. All the eyebrow motion would eventually give you a headache.
That is funny.
So basically you're Dwayne The Rock Johnson to control your video game. I just love the fact that this thing existed and Atari went there. It makes me smile. Was it Professor Xavier? Hey JDA, how you doing, man? So yeah, this was one of those.
My
I had to
goodness.
break that one out because it's one of those silly ones that every time I get a chance to mention it, it's so silly and fun, I have to talk about it.
Huh. It read your mind. The Chinese were spying on your thoughts.
This was, well, you gotta guys gotta remember, this is like late 70s. I don't even think it was in the 80s yet when they came up with the idea for this thing. And
No,
so
no, it was before that.
nobody had any idea what the hell to do with this industry, right? Atari was the first console that really took off. It wasn't the actual first console, but it was the first one to take off, right? And so the industry's only been around for like maybe 2 or 3 years, the home console market at most, right? And so
I still so
yeah,
want somebody
no
to
one
make.
has any idea what to do with it. So they're just throwing everything out there, and stuff like this is a result. And I kind of love it. Oh no, Mike's got a light gun.
I got the Justifier. Now this
That's
was the
that's what that one's called. I was thinking it was called the Magnum
Yep,
instead of the Justifier. That's the one that came with
yep.
was it Police
Lethal
Squad or something
Enforcers.
like that? Or
Lethal Enforcers.
Lethal Enforcers, that's it. Yeah,
What a
that looks
great gun
just
this
like the
was.
one from the arcade too. I love it.
So, yep. Oh, and yeah. So it actually says Justifier right on it.
Nice.
Now, of course, you had a blue and a red because it came with two, and I can't find my red one, but it came with a blue and a red so
Right.
that cops didn't actually kill you if they saw you with it. But
I mean, these
I
days they've
will,
been known to shoot people with like super soakers. They have no idea
yeah.
what a gun actually looks like anymore.
I mean, I honestly still wish that somebody had created an adapter with something to put on top of your television to make this work.
Have you
I
hugged your
know.
Atari today? Yes, with my mind.
So speaking of Atari, what I wanted to show you um, was the Atari that I use this.
It's a good modern controller for Atari stuff. I
It
can't
is.
fault that controller too much.
It is. And the thing that kind of makes this stand out, it's not just the stick itself. It's very simplistic. It's got two buttons, one on the top, but it also has a second one, which the Atari 2600 did not have. It only
No, it
had
didn't.
one
It just
button.
had the one on the top.
It had a one. Plus, you could use these buttons. These buttons could be programmed for things in game. The cool thing about this stick was is the spinning mechanism in
Yeah,
it.
I was going to say you need
So
to talk about the spinning mechanism because I didn't know it had that till you mentioned it. And that's
I
one of the neatest features about that controller.
it is so the Atari VCS came with the Atari Vault, which had a bunch of games in it, and it had games that would use a steering wheel and or a spinner like Tempest, Warlords, Super Sprint.
Yeah.
And this works for the Circus Atari on the Atari. Any of the games that used a paddle on the Atari 2600, this worked for. And
Do you spin
not
it
only
to
did this
rewind your VCR? Be kind, rewind, sir.
not only did it work for that, but it worked for a lot of the remake games, such as Breakout remake. Was it Reimagine? Not Reimagine. What they call it? Breakout something. Gravatar
Recharged.
Recharge. Thank
Yeah,
you.
they called it
So
the Recharge series. Yeah.
where Gravatar did not use like Gravatar in the arcade did not use this, and the 2600 did not use this. The Recharge did. Yar's Revenge uses this to allow you to spin your guy. Breakout.
Defender use it because that would be a cool way of like turning around.
I don't know. Defender just went back and forth.
Okay.
What you could do with Defender was use the second
I'm sorry,
button.
I'm thinking Asteroids. Sorry, my bad.
No, and I wish. So you know what? So let me back up. I have not played Asteroids Recharged. I would not be surprised if they didn't let you use this.
I mean, because you could spin the ship around in that one, so it would make sense to be able to use
you
that.
you could in the arcade. You had buttons for that. You had a left and right button. But Warlords was awesome with this. Breakout, and like Breakout and Super Breakout on the Atari 2600 and the arcade, because they used either the paddle or spinner, this worked for. Tempest 2000 and 4000 used this. In the Atari 800 or the Atari 50th collection, you could use this for just about any game that did not require more than two buttons.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of games that you could play with this in the Atari 50th collection. Now, the Atari VCS also came with a modern controller, which looks exactly like an Xbox Series X controller. I didn't feel the need to pull that one over here. Everybody knows what that looks like.
That's the base controller that they launched with because it was
But
going to be like the
this
most flexible overall controller.
this is an amazing, and it feels flimsy. It's not. It's very well built. It is very
I thought about getting one of those if I started to get into Atari emulation, just because the feel of that would feel more like actually playing Atari.
yeah, it's a gorgeous feeling controller. I really enjoy it. So so yeah, so that, and I think that more or less, I can't find, I had my fishing controller, I don't know where it went. But
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about those. There were a couple of those.
oh, here it is. Here it
Bass
is.
Pro did one, and then there was one, which is the one you got, was specifically for was it bass fishing?
Sega Bass
Dreamcast?
Fishing and
Bass
Sega
Fishing.
Marine.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Sega Marine Fishing, which was the sequel.
Right.
It had gyroscope, so you actually did.
Yeah,
so
you actually swung it out in order to like throw the.
You hold down, a button.
I love that.
And you actually, right, and then you actually reeled, and it worked. And then while you're reeling in, you can pull up. You can actually pull it to the side, left or right, to lead the fish. And the idea was not to fight the fish. So all the gyroscope functions inside corresponded to how your rod played in the game. And it was totally gyroscope. There's no sensor on the front. There's nothing. All it
I was
was
never big into fishing games, so I never ended up getting that one. It was a really cool peripheral for people that liked it, though.
It really, and it worked wonderfully. It does have a stick on it, so you could like drive your boat. It had all 4 buttons on it, A, B, X, Y. Great controller. The only thing it did not have were trigger, and my guess is that this emulated holding down the trigger. So this is one of my cool.
Good to see you, man.
So that's one of my cool controllers that I found that I've held on to all of this time.
I think we covered most of mine.
So.
Oh, hi. You're gonna be one of those. All right. Well, let's see here.
I got him.
Thank you.
Sorry, I could have told. I didn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't looking.
I forgot who that was. Whatever. Yeah, they pop up. It happens all the time over here on the YouTubes. I don't think I've got anything else. Let me take one quick look.
I'm taking a look. I mean, I'm not gonna. I have steering wheels. I wasn't gonna pull out those. Although the wheels that I have.
Yeah,
like this one,
the one that's in my. I actively want to show right now.
Yeah, all right, I'm gonna yank this thing out because it is a nice wheel. It's not that big, so I do have a wheel for the Xbox 360. I didn't bring down. This is one of the really nice ones I had. This actually works. I think it works on PC, but it also works on It's a PlayStation 3 wheel. It's a Logitech. It's the Logitech Driving Force. Logitech made some incredible steering wheels. Some really incredible steering wheels. Hey, John. What's up, man?
Hey, John. Thank you.
There you go. And so this had force feedback, which was cool. So, Gran Turismo, I think Colin McRae, they had to be compatible. But if it was compatible, this would actually force feedback, and the wheel would fight you. It had, if you wanted to, you could add. It's got this one did not do. Yes, it did actually. You could add, of course, pedals if you wanted to.
Yeah.
It had clamps. So you could clamp
that
this
way you
down.
can mount it to the desk or something like that. I've seen that on
Yeah,
a
you
lot
can
of
mount
them.
it to the desk.
Yeah.
But it also had underneath, it had a place to put like a they made a seat. How do I not a stand, but it was like a piece that came down and then it fanned out, and you put it between your legs, you put it under your thighs, and then you could rest it on your lap somewhat without, so you held it like here, but it came down and it rested between your legs and kind of held you in place a little bit.
Right.
It didn't work real well, but so that's one of the I had the, and I wish I still had it. I don't know what I ever did with it. I had the original Sega Saturn wheel, which was a little more of a, looked like a Batmobile kind of wheel. And then let's say upstairs, I've got the Xbox 360 wheel, which also had force feedback in the whole 9 yards. And I had the pedals for it and everything. The only other thing, and I didn't bring it up, I do have a Wii Fit balance board.
Oh yeah, I've got that too. I didn't think to bring any of that stuff up because there was a bunch of that.
Yeah.
I've actually got the Tatsunoko arcade stick for the Wii. Have you seen that one?
Which one?
The Tatsunoko versus Capcom.
No.
Let me see if I can pick a picture of it. Hold on 1 second, because I don't want to go downstairs and drag it up. Hold on, let's this thing.
Oh my.
It's a beautiful looking stick.
Yeah, it is.
Just a beautiful looking stick. And this would plug in. Everything on the Wii was weird because this would plug into the Wiimote and instant signals to it there. So, but it was a fully functional arcade stick, and that game's great. I really wish they would remaster that and bring that out on another one because it was all the Tatsunoko anime characters versus, like, you know, the cast of Street Fighter, and it worked really well. It was super fun. I really wish they would like port it over to something else. It's kind of one of those that only hit the Wii, and then time kind of forgot about it. And then the other one that I got coming is this one. This is another hitbox, and you can see the little rings here, 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 and here.
Damn.
And so what this thing does is you can put other buttons in here, and you can modulate it any way you want to. So this lifts off so that you can change all the switches. You can change the light rings out. You can change the button connectors on it. This allows you to pull all the switches as well. And so it's got this pad on the bottom, so it's non-slide. And these tabs kick in so that you can just lift off the plate so that you can change everything. It's super cool. I can't wait to get my hands on it. It's going to be dope. Yeah, Roy. Wow, I haven't seen Roy in a while.
I know.
How you doing, Roy? I haven't seen you in a minute, man. I used to catch you on like Saturday streaming, but I haven't seen you in a minute.
Yeah, I hope you're doing all right. Hope all is well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're probably gonna wrap this up a little bit early tonight because we've gone about an hour and 40 minutes on this.
Yeah, and I don't. Oh, wait a minute.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Something else.
Okay. I forgot I had these.
Here we go.
So,
I got you on layer here.
All right. So Microsoft, and these all go back to the 360. I don't know why I've got so much 360 stuff that I'm never going to use again. Trying to cash in on the Karaoke Revolution or Karaoke Evolution games from Konami Karaoke Revolution. Microsoft tried something called Lips. It never worked well. Where do you keep all these? Unfortunately,
he's got a box.
I've got a bin.
He's got like a bin. I can hear the bin rattling around.
Yeah, I've got this bin. So they made these, a pair of microphones, totally wireless, which was something different from Karaoke Revolution. Karaoke Revolutions were all of their, up until like Rock Band, all of the microphones you had were wired. This was totally wireless, which in and of itself caused a little bit of issue with delay. Um, but they're what's wild about these are really well made. I mean, these are really well made microphones.
It's not a bad looking microphone. I mean, for a
They're not.
controller
They
style, that's not a
really are
bad looking
not.
mic.
No, they're really not. I mean, they and the idea was
After New Year's, I'll go back to being a day worker for a while. Apparently, he's been working a lot of nights, so like the family and
well,
kids
and
get
we do
together,
miss you,
Thanksgiving,
Roy.
Christmas,
We
and all
we
that.
do miss you. And we're glad to see you, of course. Um, the the issue that they had with this game was in what they tried to do the whole you can do any music you want, like any song you have, because of course the Xbox 360 did custom soundtracks. So you could do any song you wanted. Problem was it didn't work. So they never got this thing off the ground. The game died a very quick death. It didn't